Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturning. I've had a honey please do list for a long time. One of the items has been this little woodpecker. My wife found this many years ago. She's been fascinated, the kids have been fascinated, and frankly, I've been fascinated as he pecks his way down the rod. So it's time for me to make one. Now, the physics of this bird are beyond me. It's an interaction between the friction, the lack of friction, the binding, the spring, and the weight of the bird somehow. Now, I made a prototype just out of rough materials to try and figure some of these things out, and I'd recommend that you do the same. But in the end, this bird consists of a base with a very high top to try and protect the tail of the bird from hitting the base. Not quite successful on that one yet on this one. A dowel of some length, and I made a tip for it just to make it pretty. Maybe a little bit of protection from kids, and a bird on a spring with a tube. Now, it is a balance between just sliding down and getting an oscillating motion going with the bird. Whoa! And it is indeed fascinating. So let's make this woodpecker and let him go down the rod.
I started by making a mock-up with rough scrap parts. It seemed to work. Now I'll start replacing the parts of my mock-up, beginning with the woodpecker's body. This body is cherry. It is a simple shape with a cone for the tail, at least for now. I'll work the tail more later. This will be good skew practice, as the skew leaves a very smooth surface with very little sanding needed. I'll leave a small tenon that will hold the bird's head to the body. By the way, I cannot give good specifications for the spring. I tried one from a pen, but it was too weak for the woodpecker. So I went to a hardware store and picked one that seemed to be not too tight, not too weak. It had some number attached to it that made no sense at all. The only spring that seemed right was an expansion spring with loops on the ends. I had to clip off those loops. After sanding, I'll finish my bird with shellac friction polish. I'll leave the bird on the lathe while I sand the tail. To shape the tail, I'm using a small flap sander on a Proxxon tool. The mount to the lathe is very fragile, so I'm supporting the bird with my left hand while I shape the tail. After this coarse shaping, I tried to refine it with my air-powered disc sander, but that felt awkward, so I switched to hand sanding the tail. Then a bit of finish before drilling the bird's tummy for the spring. So that I can progressively test the replacements to the mock-up, I'll make the small tube that goes on the dowel and holds the other end of the spring. I drilled the hole a size larger than the dowel. Then I shaped the tube, finished it, cut it loose, and drilled the hole for the spring. Then I tested the replacements. Bad news, it didn't work. The bird refused to rock and was stuck on the dowel. I'm sure there are some physics formula to find the ideal, but I don't know them. My theory was the bird needed to be heavier and or the tube diameter greater and or the tube to be shorter. So I started my plan by making the bird's head to increase its weight. After all, it would look very funny as a headless bird. For a bit more interest, I'm using walnut for some color contrast. The bird's beak was difficult. I should have supported it with more wood on the tailstock side. Ultimately, I was able to shape it, sand it, and finish it. Then I reamed out the mounting tube by one more size and sanded it much shorter. At this point, my woodpecker started to work properly, and I did not have to make a heavier bird. I then went on to make a small cap for the top of the dowel. This is walnut and purely decorative. It was a pain to make due to tight quarters next to the headstock. Finally, a base to support the dowel and the bird. For this, I chose a nasty piece of walnut that I thought I could salvage for a base. I wanted it heavy enough to support the tall dowel without much risk of tipping over. I also wanted a taller, thin section that would bump against the sliding tube to keep the bird's tail from hitting the base hard at the end of the run. Since I had shortened the sliding tube, my bird's tail still hits the base. But enough for now. Sometime in the future, I may add another tube to serve as a spacer. But for now, this is enough. I turned an expansion mount on the underside and finished the underside. Then I turned and finished the top side. Finally, my woodpecker pecks his way down the dowel, at least most of the time. Most of the time, I can get him into a good rhythm. He's kind of cute. I don't know why it took me so long to scratch him off my honey-do list. He's made of scrap offcuts except for the dowel, but I did not make the dowel myself anyway. Let's give him a few more tries to prove himself. That's all for this video. Please subscribe to both my website and YouTube channel. Please always wear your full face shield. Goggles are not enough. Until next time, this is Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns.